Hello, and thanks for choosing the Jefferson My Drinks Fantasy Podcast, the pod on a mission to normalise 8-team leagues. I'm Pete McManus, and it's just a two-man show today. I'm joined by the ever-brilliant Ian Harrison. How are you?
I'm all right, yeah. Cheers for that intro. I love that. How are you?
I'm loving the tank top.
I'm just wearing it as much as I can. It's been especially roasting this week, so it's found its way back out the drawer. But I actually secretly love it.
Yeah, I can tell you do. And if we usually plug the YouTube at the end, but if you are listening in your car or on any podcast form, that is a reason. If you ever needed a reason to go onto our YouTube, is to check out Ian's tank top. I saw a tweet from Scott Hansen the other day about how it was 10 weeks ago, and I was like, right, I'm fully in now. Now we're into July. I'm fully ready for the season to be back, and 10 weeks is not going to go quick enough for me.
Well, we get pre-season games this month.
Yeah, I don't mind May and June because it's like do a few best ball drafts and all that sort of, get involved in that, and then but then it's like right now it's this bit of the season where nothing's happening until training camp where I'm like, right, we need to get through this now and start the proper countdown. So I am looking forward to the season now. We're gonna do our first 8-team redraft mock today, just the two of us. We've got a mock coming up in a couple of weeks. We've got our first draft coming up in a couple of weeks, so a good reason to do a mock today. So we thought we'd crack into that in a minute. But before we do, we need to talk trades because there's been a big trade in the NFL. Well, I say big. I mean, it's big for June, July time.
It's big for a Monday.
Yeah. But you don't get. I don't remember there being a lot of significant trades. I'd say it was significant enough for us to talk about, so therefore it's a significant trade between the Steelers and the Dolphins. Which I've been away for the weekend, so I might have just been like not with it. But this came from nowhere, as far as I'm concerned. I know Johnny Smith's been angling for a new deal, but just to go over the terms of the deal, so the Steelers from the Dolphins receive cornerback Jalen Ramsey, who was looking for a move, tight end Jonnu Smith, and a 2027 7th round pick. And in return, the Dolphins get back safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, who they drafted and then traded away, and a 2027 5th round pick. First up, Ian, I think there's two sides to this. So first up, I want your just general NFL opinion and first reactions, not related to fantasy, in terms of, because there's a couple of defensive players in there, in terms of what you think of the trade.
Yeah, I mean, Steelers don't often get one wrong, but this is as bad as it gets. Minkah Fitzpatrick, in every way, is better than Jalen Ramsey. I get they don't do the same jobs, but I would much rather have Minkah Fitzpatrick in my team on my D than, that sounds weird, than, where's H?
That's H when we need him.
Where's H? Than Jalen Ramsey. So I don't understand that. And Jonnu Smith is purely an Art Smith buy. He had him at the Falcons. He used him more than he did with Carpet than he did Carpet. So everyone was raging because everyone's like, well, it's Carpet's is right there. And you throw it to Jonnu Smith, who's your blocking tight end. Then he went to Miami last year. And let's be honest, he got spammed, absolutely spammed last year.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, I think he had over 111 targets, I think.
111 targets, 88 receptions.
Yeah, ridiculous numbers. Then he wants a new deal, so they've shipped him off. What are the Steelers going to do with Pat Freiermuth? Are they going to run 12 personnel? Are we going to see 2-3 tight ends on the field at any time now?
Probably.
And then just DK Metcalf on his own on the other side, like the small guy. Like, hi. Roman Wilson's somewhere in the background doing nothing at all. It makes no sense from the Steelers' point of view, for me anyway. And I get people will say, oh, Art Smith wants his tight end. I don't think Jonnu Smith is that much of an upgrade on Pat Freiermuth to make this trade make sense.
No, there was a lot of Steelers fans on social media claiming they'd won that trade and claiming how brilliant it was. But I was also, whilst I'm reading through it, I was like, if you'd have given up 2 first-round picks for Jonnu Smith, you'd still say it was a great move because, well, not this isn't just specific to Steelers fans. That's what this is what big sports fans do. They double down on their team's moves and go, yeah, it's brilliant. Everyone can win the off season. Everyone can win in July because no football's being played. I thought the Dolphins got slightly the better of that deal. And I think the big thing for me, I agree with you that Minka Fitzpatrick is an upgrade on Jalen Ramsey. I mean, there's a couple of years in terms of age gap, but I think he's just a better player and less of a muppet. Jalen Ramsey.
In fairness, though, Jalen Ramsey will fit right in.
But that's his fourth team, isn't it? He started at the Jags, went to the Rams, Dolphins. Now he's at the Steelers. So it's like that. Yeah. That tells you something about a player at this point, I think. I can only assume that they've already agreed they're going to pay Jonnu Smith, which will be the next part of this.
Well, yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what that contract looks like now. Bearing in mind, a couple of tight end deals have been done recently. Trey McBride ended up with what, 20 million, 19 million a year over a few years. It'd be interesting to see how much Jonnu Smith thinks he's worth. Or is worth.
I mean, I get they're paying DK Metcalf 33 million a year, but if they're going to give Jonnu Smith Trey McBride money, there's a genuine possibility that I'll just wet myself.
Okay, so we know that deal's going to get done. So let's have a stab at it. I'm going to go. I reckon they are going to give him a 3-year deal worth 45, so 15 a year, and probably guarantee 2/3 of it, like 30 million.
Wow. See, I'm torn between what I think they'll do and what I think is a fair value.
Well, they should do.
Yeah. I think we're probably looking closer to 12 million a year over 3 years, 36 mil.
Okay. Well, we'll revisit this when it happens.
Yeah.
The other side to this is that the Dolphins have now been linked with Darren Waller coming out of retirement. So I don't really know, which is proper left field because literally everybody I could see yesterday was linking them to Kyle Pitts, and which I'm really glad hasn't happened because I just can't be doing with 6 weeks of this is finally the moment that Kyle Pitts breaks out because he's on a different team and he's got away from the Falcons. So I don't want anybody buying back in on Kyle Pitts. So I'm all right with him staying where he is. So just quickly on a fantasy point of view, the only person, I don't see Jonnu Smith as a winner out of this because whilst Art Smith loves him, he had his best season last year when he was on the Dolphins. So
yeah,
he never finished higher than in PPR. He never finished higher than tight end 16 before that, and the 16th best tight end in any season is not good enough to be on anybody's fantasy team, or he's not winning you any titles. So
no, and especially when you're competing with Pat Freiermuth, who he's an established and he is a quality tight end. Like he's not someone that usually goes in our 18 drafts. He ends up on someone's team off the waiver wire every year without fail if he doesn't get drafted. So Pat Freiermuth is someone of relevance. I just think now that Jonnu Smith's there, neither of them are worth looking at now.
No. Does it take the shine off DK Metcalf a little bit?
It does a bit, yeah. Purely because it's Art Smith, and Art Smith loves throwing the ball to Jonnu Smith.
Yeah. And they want to run the ball as well. So you just
they want to run the ball. Yeah.
I mean, DK Metcalf.
Who it does completely devalue, and someone I've been sneakily high on over the last couple of weeks is Roman Wilson. I thought Roman Wilson might have been in line for a breakout year this year, and this move just completely torpedoes that.
Yeah, Roman Wilson's was in quite a few of my best ball drafts where you get to the last couple of rounds and I'll have a punt on Roman Wilson because second year wide receiver didn't go well for him in year one, And I agree he's taking a kick in. But I think we can all agree that the Dolphins, this is Jalen Waddle's team moving forward.
Has to be. This is great news for Pete.
Yeah, I had an argument with H last week. He's not here to defend himself, but I had an argument with H. I personally don't think Tyreek Hill's done, but H is like, Tyreek's done. Johnny Smith's gone. I'm like, well, this is Jalen Waddle to the moon then, surely.
Achan instead. Achan getting everything.
Yeah. Achan's going to get 45 dump-offs a game now.
So 100%.
Watch him go. He is in the 2026 drafts, he will be the 101. Achan.
So,
right.
Say the Dolphins do sign Darren Waller. Who would you rather have in your team, Darren Waller or Kyle Pitts?
Kyle Pitts. You know what? I wasn't big on Darren Waller when he went to the Giants, and they were. I mean, I think he was going like 5th or 6th off the board in terms of tight ends that season, and then he ended up retiring. And I think he will come back, and at some point he will be. Darren Waller has got #1 waiver wire pickup written all over him for like week 6 or something. He'll come back, it'll take him 5 or 6 weeks to get going. He'll have one good game, and then everybody will be clambering to get him, spending all their fan budget on him, and then he'll probably never be seen again. So I think that's my prediction for Darren Waller's season.
Oh, fair enough. I think Kyle Pitts' NFL career is going about as well as Darren Waller's rap career went.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want, just to be clear, I don't want a lot of Kyle Pitts either, but I will take Kyle. If it was the choice, if they were the only 2 tight ends I had a choice of, I'd take Kyle Pitts and hope that Michael Penix makes a thing of him. But I think we all know at this point it's not going to happen. Should we crack on with the draft?
Yeah.
So we've got our first 8-team redraft league draft coming up in just over 2 weeks, and I've got the 101 in that league, and you are drafting from the 6th spot. So what we thought we'd do is just flick them around. Obviously, I don't want to give you all my secrets away of who I'm going to take first overall for starters. So I don't know the rest of the league will be listening. Yeah, I need to try and keep that a secret.
Well, I get a feeling that the first overall that I choose tonight is going to be the same first overall that you choose in a couple of weeks.
Possibly. I think it should be the first one overall on most teams. But what we thought we'd do is just flip positions. I'll go from the 6, you go from the 1, and then we can do a bit of wonder what Pete would do in this situation, or I wonder what Ian would do in this situation. And then we're doing 15 rounds. If we've got enough time to get through it, the last couple will just be kickers and Ds anyway, so we probably won't bother with them. It's normal rules. We don't have anything, say normal. I mean, it's single QB, full PPR. So there's nothing too quirky about the scoring in our leagues. I think we have 6 points for a passing quarterback.
We do, yeah.
I think is the only difference that we have from standard leagues. So
let me shut that up.
With me in sound effects.
Yeah, no doubt in my mind. Everyone knows what I'm going to do there. It's Ja'Marr Chase at 1. Has to be.
So I think I've not seen many leagues where Ja'Marr Chase doesn't go 101. And I think, we'll have to see what I do in a couple of weeks' time. But I think, he's going in most leagues. He's going 101. Jahmyr Gibbs at 2, Saquon Barkley at 3. Gibbs is higher than I've seen in most. I think I would have Bijan over him, possibly Barkley too. Jefferson at 4. And then Bijan does go at 5, which makes the choice for me really simple. I think if CeeDee Lamb's still on the board at 6, then that's a no-brainer for me. I think I think we did we're going to do a shout. We did a mock draft with Pestle from the THFF last week. So if you want to hear more of me and Ian, you haven't already listened to that. That's worth listening to. So that was a 12 team redraft.
Yeah, it was. And if it helps, H isn't also on that one. So
H is just living it up in Cornwall. But I said at the time, if I can start my draft with either Chase, Bijan, or CD Lamb, then I'm happy. So I'm getting CD Lamb at the 106. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Derrick Henry round out round 1. Team 8 then takes Malik Neighbours. I like that start, Henry and Neighbours. And then Team 7 has taken Brian Thomas, which leaves me with a choice of Nico Collins is probably my favourite wide receiver, or going running back. But I think there might still be some running backs I like coming back the other way. So I'm going to go Nico Collins at the 203 and start double wide receiver. Ashton Genty then goes to Team 5. Puka Nacua. Devon Achan, who we've just decided is going to finish 1 overall. He goes in the second round, possibly could win the league for Team 3. And then AJ Brown at the 207, which leaves you on the clock, Ian, with 2 picks.
Maybe the 2 easiest picks I might ever make, with Brock Bowers next in line based on ADP, followed by CMC, which, if you end up with this, Pete, you are having an unbelievable start to the draft.
Yeah, I can't see that happening, but you never know. I've not seen. I know it's obviously slightly different with 8 teams as opposed to 10 or 12, but I've not seen Bowers fall that far. But no. I can't imagine even in an 8 team, Bowers gets all the way to the end of the second round.
No, because he won't get past me coming back in the second.
No. Well, we should have had that. I should have had that conversation before I picked Nico Collins. That Brock Bowers definitely would have been under consideration if that had been you on the clock.
We said we'd have a stop in a chat, like what would Ian do and what would Pete do. Ian definitely wouldn't go wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, possibly. Or no, not possibly, definitely. Right.
Well, I like what Team 5 are doing.
So Christian McCaffrey at the start of the 3rd, then Lad McConkey, Drake London, Bucky Irving, and Jonathan Taylor. I almost called him Jason Taylor. I don't know who Jason Taylor is. So Team 5 have started Bijan, Jonty, and then Taylor, which is very running back heavy.
Big fan of that. Big fan.
Next in line is Josh Allen. Too early for you to take a quarterback?
No, I don't mind throwing caution to the wind. I feel it's too early for you, though, because you don't like doing this. I don't think you're going to take a quarterback here because it's not your bag, especially with Trey McBride 2 places away.
Yeah,
that might not come back.
Trey McBride. There's a few running backs I like who I can get in the next round. So I will probably skip quarterback and take Trey McBride there. And so I'll start Lamb, Nico, and Trey McBride. I like that.
Team 7 are having a Pete draft.
4 straight wide receivers.
Like that is the Petest of drafts.
T. Higgins goes after me. Then Josh Allen, Josh Jacobs, then Jackson Smith and Jigba, which leaves me on the clock. Which means this is the part where we talked about this on the other mock we did. This is the part where I start panicking about not having a running back and looking for one. But the top of the list is Kyron Williams, so that's as simple as that. I'll just take Kyron Williams, and then I've got a little bit of balance, and I'm looking good. I would have considered Lamar Jackson there. I can't see you taking a quarterback in that position either. I think you would have gone with one of those running backs, probably Chase Brown at that point.
Had Lamar fallen to me, I'd be taking Lamar right now, but that's a big ask for Lamar to fall to the end of the fourth.
So Lamar went straight after me at the 404. Then it was Tyreek Hill, then James Cook, then Jaden Daniels, which leaves Ian on the clock already with a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end. So 3 quarterbacks have gone. Chase Brown is the next obvious choice, or not the next obvious choice, the next in line in terms of ADP. Do you have an issue with having Chase Brown and Jamar Chase on your team, or would he be under consideration?
So this is what I'm looking at now. So this is me looking at Chase Brown, and then taking Joe Burrow straight after. So I am just going all Bengals, which, as much as I would love to do that, I think it's high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
And it's not a very balanced approach. So I'm either going to absolutely blow the league away or I'm going to finish dead last based on what happens. So I do more balance than just piling in on the Bengals.
The worst part about that is, as a Bengals fan, it's going to be high risk, high reward, and you are going to live and you're going to feel every moment of that as it happens.
I know. So I'm gonna leave Chase Brown alone for now. Anyway, I say for now because there's no way he's coming back. Absolutely no way. I am, however, going to take Joe Burrow to stack him with Jamar Chase.
Okay,
I'll do that all day. And I'm happy taking Joe Burrow over Jalen Hurts at this point purely because I've gone in on Jamar Chase early doors.
Yeah. I don't think there's much in it. Especially not if you're getting 6 points for a passing touchdown.
No, you are right. So now I'm looking at the running backs. Breece Hall, I'm concerned about him potentially splitting a backfield this year. And then is Alvin Kamara, who we all know that I love, but has he got another year left in him? Marion Hampton and Kenneth Walker. So I'm in a bit of a, not a bit much of a muchness, really. I'm going to go with Kamara. I'm going to go with experience over the rookie of Marion Hampton.
So Kamara goes to Ian, Chase Brown at the 502, then McLaurin, then Garrett Wilson, who was the wide receiver I thought you might have considered at that point. You like to punt wide receivers a bit later, but I like that. I like Team 4's wide receiver room. Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Tyreek Hill, and Garrett Wilson is strong. Very strong.
Like Tyreek Hill? You like Tyreek Hill? Never thought I'd see the day.
No, well, I don't. I just don't think he's as finished as other people are saying, and he seems to be getting pushed down the boat. And especially as my third or fourth wide receiver, I'd be more than happy with that because he could quite easily still be the player that he used to be. So that puts me on the clock. This is where I start thinking we've got 4 quarterbacks already taken. So Jalen Hurts is under consideration. I've got a tight end, so I don't need to look at George Kittle. And thankfully, Marvin Harrison went the pick before me because I would have been tempted to go double Cardinals, which is probably not the right way to go. So in terms of wide receivers, I do like Devontae Adams. I think he could be good this year, and so too could Rashee Rice. Oh, this is tough. Tell you what, I'm gonna go Jalen Hurts and see how it pans out. I think there's 5 quarterbacks for me that stand out above the rest, and he's the last one of the 5, so I will take him.
Yeah.
Breece Hall goes straight after me, and Rashee Rice finishes out the 5th round. Sixth round starts with Devontae Adams and George Kittle, which leaves me back on the clock looking with a quarterback and a tight end already in play. I don't usually do that, especially in our 8-team leagues. I like to leave my quarterback and tight end until later on. So the question is,
Trey McBride doesn't always. He never really falls for you.
No. So it's running back or wide receiver. Running back, top of the running backs. You've already mentioned Hampton. He's falling a bit. Kenneth Walker, I think he's a great player when he's on the field. Does have a habit of getting a little bit banged up. Joe Mixon, he's very reliable, and then it's the old.
And then it's old reliable. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And then wide receiver is Mike Evans, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, Zay Flowers. There's a few wide receivers I still like. I think at this point you would definitely be going running back. If I handed this team over to you now, you'd definitely be going running back because you'd be having a minor panic attack about only having one running back through 5 rounds.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to lean that way, and I'm going to go. Just think Hampton's going too high, Najee Harris is being completely underestimated, not for fantasy, but just for taking a lot of that work away from him. So
No, I agree. Like, they've not gone out and got Najee Harris to not play him.
no, and he doesn't get injured. I'm gonna make an Ian move, and I'm gonna go Joe Mixon.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough. I would have gone Kenneth Walker, if I'm honest there.
Okay,
Which
Walker over Mixon
is still an option for me. Yeah, I'm concerned about. I know Kenneth Walker's going to be splitting the backfield with Charbonnet, but Mixon had a massive drop off last year, and they've gone out and got Nick Chubb. So I'm a bit more down on Mixon as it stands right now. Until I see how it shapes up in preseason, and preseason doesn't normally give much away anyway. But I have my concerns about Mixon this year. And Marion Hansen keeps falling.
He does. After Mixon, it was Mike Evans, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, then James Conner, which leaves Ian on the board with Joe Burrow, McCaffrey and Kamara. Jamar Chase is his only wide receiver, and then Brock Bowers at tight end. So it's just a case of filling his running back. We're both in the same situation, just a case of filling running back and wide receiver rooms. While you're having to think about that, just Team 4 have added another wide receiver in DJ Moore. What a lineup that's looking. I actually prefer Team 4's lineup to mine now. I think so. we want to swap out for them.
Do you feel like you regret choosing position 1 in the draft then?
No. I think there's. I mean, you go for the one. If you're picking position 1 in the draft, there's only one reason you're picking it. So at least you get who you want in the first round, and that's the whole reason. The whole reason I've gone there.
So I'm still gonna overlook Marion Hansen. I'm gonna go with Kenneth Walker at the end of the 6th. And then now I'm definitely looking at wide receivers. And it'll never be Devonta Smith. It's just one of those players that I'm never interested in. I don't like the cut of his jib, if I'm honest.
He's very hit or miss though, isn't he? He's one of those, but we talked about it before. He's one of those players.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those players. He's ideal for best ball, but I wouldn't want to trust him on a weekly basis in my redraft team. And he's going to prove me wrong at some point.
This has no relevance to him scoring fantasy points, but did you see him smashing a home run out of the park on his charity softball game?
I did not.
Absolutely. No. I don't know why it appeared on my socials, but it absolutely creamed it and then just wandered around because and then with everyone going crazy. It was like, well, he's got some talent, that lad.
Yeah, but he's also got noodle arms, so I don't know how he's managed that. So I'm torn at the minute between Cortland Sutton, who had a great year last year. I think he's going to have an even better year this year. And I'm going to overlook Zay Flowers, Devonta Smith, Worthy, Williams, Pickens. I'm interested in Ted McMillan at this point. I'm very interested in Ted McMillan. But I am going to go with Sutton. Anyone watching this for the first time, watching me draft, I usually tend to value experience over rookie upside. And that is a prime example of what I've just done there by taking Cortland Sutton over what it could be a massive upside from Ted McMillan. But there is also the chance that Ted McMillan comes back to me in the next round.
Experience is a great way of putting you like the old guys. So I like that. I don't understand Cortland Sutton going it's not that low, but that's about the 20. I just had a quick count up. That's about the 22nd, 23rd wide receiver off the board. He finished as the wide receiver 15 last year, and that was bearing in mind that it took Bo Nix 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it was to, he had that sort of slow start as you would expect from a rookie. So I don't know. I think he's a little bit underrated, Cortland Sutton. So I really like that pick. Chuba Hubbard. Well, that's a shame. I was going to pick him next. Chuba Hubbard went after Sutton. Then it was Zay Flowers and Devonta Smith. Team 4 getting a little bit out of hand with the wide receivers now. I probably would have taken Devonta Smith because I do like him. But he didn't come that far. Sam Laporta went to team 5, and that leaves me with a very even 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, which is not usually how I
No, you don't do this.
Start. And Hampton's still there, which is weird. So it's Hampton, Montgomery running back. So I'm going to pick a wide receiver. I'm going to go with Jameson Williams. I think there's a chance he has he kicks on again this year. I think that we haven't really talked about the Lions a lot. I never really heard anybody talk about the Lions much. Let me pause this a second. We'll just take a second to have a breather. 7 rounds in. I've heard a lot talked about the Bears in terms of Ben Johnson goes over there, that he's trying to recreate what he had at the Lions and all that sort of stuff. But not a lot been said about what's going to happen with the Lions. And, they've got new offensive coordinators. They've got new passing game coordinator. I think they've got you just kind of think, is this going to be the same thing? Everyone's expecting it to be slightly worse than last year, I think, just because they were the number 1 overall offense and all that sort of stuff. So it has to regress slightly. But I think there's a chance that either a Sam Laporta or a Jameson Williams really comes through and has a really good year because they're changing the offense a little bit and they mix things around. I remember St. Brown's still going to get a good chunk of the targets, but I feel like they're not just going to roll the same thing back again. It's going to be slightly different.
Yeah, I think any offensive coordinator is going to come into that team. Is going to go, right, where can we get the quick gains from? Where can we make instant improvements? Are we producing from the running back room? Yeah, of course we are. Are we producing from the receivers? Yeah, we are, because Amon-Ra St. Brown basically carries the team from the receiving room. Jameson Williams chips in. Where we can make a really quick, easy gain is by freeing up Sam Laporta. So I think out of the two, if someone's going to have an improvement from last year between Sam Laporta or Jameson Williams, I will put my money on Sam Laporta.
Okay. It could happen. I think one of them's set to have a bigger year. I can see the rushing game just taking a drop off slightly, which doesn't worry me for Gibbs. It worries me for Montgomery a little bit. But I think the passing game, I think there's something there in the passing game. Amari Hampton has finally gone off the board at 7-7. TJ Hawkinson is the 5th tight end off the board at the end of the 7th. Then Xavier Worthy, then Patrick Mahomes, which leaves me back on looking at running backs. And I've just said that Montgomery's not going to do it, so I'm not going to pick him. So I am looking at either one of the rookies, RJ Harvey, Judkins, or Henderson. I think there's a chance one of them comes back. So I'm going to take a chance on. I think I'm going to take a chance on Pacheco.
Before you do, just look at where Waddle is.
Oh yeah. He's not coming back to me, is he?
No, he isn't. Don't you missing out on Waddle?
Oh, there we go then. I'll take Jalen Waddle. doesn't take much convincing. I hadn't seen him. He was slightly off my screen. Yeah, Jalen Waddle, who's now going to be the forefront of the Dolphins offense. I'm glad we're drafting in 2 weeks. He's going to be like 3rd or 4th round pick in a month's time once everybody else got on. Aaron Jones and Tony Pollard follow them. Then Chris Olave, not sure about Chris Olave. I think he could potentially be not necessarily a league winner, but he could be a really good pick in the 8th round if the Saints have got anything about them this year. RJ Harvey then goes to team 2, who've got 5 running backs and really run heavy. And then we're at your 8th and 9th round picks.
Yeah, so I was on the fence last round about Ted McMillan. I said there was a chance that he makes it back round to me, and he has. So I'm definitely taking Ted McMillan.
I'm not feeling him, at all.
You're not?
No.
On what basis?
I just think because he got picked so high, I think a lot of the stuff I read about him, and I don't watch a lot of college, but a lot of stuff I read about him was he wouldn't have been a first round pick had he been in last year's draft. And I know every draft's different and all that sort of stuff, and I get that. And last year's draft was full of superstars, especially at the wide receiver position. But I think there's I've just got Rome Odunze in the back of my mind that he's going to that sort of team. He's that sort of draft pick. He's going to that sort of team. He's supposedly not as good as Rome Odunze was. And I just don't know whether Bryce Young finished the season really well, and I think he will have a decent season, and he's proven me wrong. No issue admitting that at this point. He has proven me wrong. But I just think he's more likely to lean, especially at the beginning of the year, lean towards Leggett, who he will have had a little bit of. He's got a little bit of history with. Adam Thielen possibly is still there, and I just don't see Ted McMillan getting the targets that he needs to really break out. But I mean, at the end of the 8th round, he's your third wide receiver. It's not like you're relying on him too much.
No, and these are the rounds where you can start taking picks based on the upside and start having a swing. Yeah. If you've got your base already set out, I've had a pretty balanced draft up until this point anyway. You know, my running back room is 3 strong, my receivers 3. I've already got my QB and the best tight end on the board, in my opinion, in Brock Bowers. So I'm at the point now where I'm looking at David Montgomery. I think he's going to have a regression this year. He's very touchdown dependent. Can he repeat? I don't think he can. So I'm going to have another swing on a rookie who might have the backfield all to himself in Judkins.
Yeah, I like that pick. And I think that's it. I think some of the wide receivers that you were going back to McMillan, like the wide receivers who are going to come off the board, I like George Pickens. I'm not picking him because he's a lamb, but Pickens is going to give you a very.
That isn't why you're not picking George Pickens.
No, he would have. I think he will give you a very solid line. Ted McMillan could be much bigger than that. He could be much lower than that as well, but he could. It's the like you say, it's the opportunity for what could be with Ted McMillan over someone like Pickens or Ridley or Addison or Godwin and Judy that are left on the board. Right, for me, 9th round, I've got 4 wide receivers. I mentioned the rookie running backs. I also mentioned Pacheco, so this is an easy hit for me. I'm just going to go with Isaiah Pacheco. I think there's a chance he returns and is the running back 1 for the Chiefs, and they just rely on him a little bit more. I think they brought him back too early for the playoffs last year. He wasn't ready. He looked bloody terrible. But I'm hoping, and with over 6 months to recover, he looks a little bit better. Then Travis Hunter, then Jordan Addison. I don't know if that Jordan Addison pick bake in the fact that he's probably going to miss the first 3 games.
Probably not. No.
Then Caleb Johnson, then DeAndre Swift.
Those are 2 players that I am completely avoiding this year.
Addison and Johnson, or Swift?
No.
And Johnson.
Travis, not DeAndre Swift. Come off. Travis Hunter and Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
I am just completely swerving the pair of them this year.
Well, we know you're out on Jordan Addison now. He's hurt you. He's hurt
until week 6.
Until week 6, when you're like trading for him off somebody and paying through the nose.
Not week 6. He's on his buy. No, he's on his buy on week 6. No, actually, yeah, week 6.
Yeah. What have I got? I've got 3 running backs. This is where I'd probably like to add a 4th running back, and I like Henderson, so I'm going to take a gamble on this is where I want to take a gamble. This is where I would really like to take a gamble on a rookie. Unfortunately, and he's not here to defend himself, but unfortunately H is in our draft, so all of the rookies that have going to gone way before we get to this round. Even a couple of the other lads in our leagues are just going to be like, yeah, the rookies are great, and they're not going to be. This is where mocks don't necessarily work out the way your actual draft will and give you too much of a guide, because I don't think Henderson will still be on the board in the 10th round. But if he is, I'm more than happy taking him, because he's. It might take him a couple of weeks because they'll want to give Ramondre Stevenson a chance, but Ramondre Stevenson's not very good. So, Jacoby Myers at 10-4, Baker Mayfield at 10-5, Mark Andrews at 10-6. I like that pick. Chris Godwin at 10-7, and then we're back to you, Ian, with 4 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and your quarterback and tight end. What are you taking care of?
Yes.
I'm assuming.
So, go on.
I was just going to say, I'm assuming with Burrow and Bowers, you are not looking at a second tight end or quarterback.
No, not as yet. That is something I'll address in a couple of rounds' time.
Oh, you still? Oh, I meant generally. So you will still take one, do you reckon?
Well, I'm going to be led by the board on those decisions. I think I'll definitely take a second quarterback. I absolutely will. Do I fully trust Joe Burrow's injury history? I'd like to think he can go a full season without picking up an injury. But based on what I've seen and his inability to play 17 games, I would definitely look at reinforcing my QB room before the draft is over. Might not necessarily take a second tight end. Depends on what's going later on. But I'm definitely not looking at addressing that right now. Just pause it for a sec, Pete.
Yeah, sure.
Because where we're at right now and the players that I'm looking at, I would have taken Jacoby Myers had he have still been there. I do like Jerry Jeudy, but with my last pick being Quinton Judkins, I don't want to go too Browns heavy because I won't sleep tonight if I do that. But then there's no one really within this range. Like Roma Dunn's not really bothered. Johnny Smith, as we've already covered, no interest. Bo Nix, not addressing my QBs. Tyron Tracy, I like. Will he keep the job? I don't know. Shakir, Brian Robinson, Deebo Samuel, Nutty Professor Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren. I'm not really a massive fan. So I'm going to make a Pete pick at this point, if you mind on pausing it for his mate. So I'm in a point of what would Pete do? And Pete would take Brandon Aubrey.
Whoa. Did you want to do all that? Did you want to do that?
I don't
Just
know.
bear with me.
Yeah, I didn't want Deebo Samuel as well. I don't know what's happened there.
You're going to take Brandon Aubrey? Okay.
I am. Because I'm thinking to myself,
let me fix this board.
what would Pete do? And I think Pete would reach roundabout now for Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah, possibly. I'd like to say I wouldn't, but I think we all know I probably would. Well, I would say I think I fixed this, so just give me a second. But some of the players were at that point. This is where, if this is how this went with 4 running backs, this is where I'd kind of be like, I'm glad I've got my 4 running backs, because you start reading through this list of running backs and it's just the meh of running back rooms. It's like the Tracy, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, and I've just mentioned Najee Harris. I think he's got a role to play, but I don't think he's going to score enough fantasy points to be in my team week in, week out. And then you get to the people you have to take a chance on: Javonte Williams, Ramondre Stevenson. Then it's Charbonnet and Mason and Spears that are only relevant if the guy who's also back there gets injured. So it's difficult. This point in the draft is where the running back rooms really get difficult. Wide receivers isn't that different, but there are a couple that I really like. Right, I reset you, so you can now take Brandon Aubrey at the end of the 10th.
Yeah, but you know all the stats about Brandon Aubrey because you're a massive Brandon Aubrey fan. Like, where in PPR, what was his finishing position last year? Was he higher than most?
It was pretty high.
Was he like if he was a tight end, he'd have scored the 3rd highest points for tight ends or something like that? And then because I'm not that interested in the other players around this range, I'm going to take the opportunity now to draft my backup quarterback while he's still available, and I'm going to take Jared Goff.
Do you know what? When we did that draft last week, and you were mentioning Goff, I thought you were just winding me up. I didn't realise that you were actually really high on Jared Goff.
Yeah, especially when we're playing 6 points per passing touchdown.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. There's just other quarterbacks that I thought you would have been higher on. Jordan Love for one, who didn't go in our 12-team mock last week. That I could not believe that Jordan Love hadn't gone off the board. There was like 17 quarterbacks gone, and Jordan Love wasn't one of them. But yeah, I thought you'd be more in on a Jordan Love or a Justin Fields from the conversations that we'd had. So that surprises me.
Justin Fields would have been a better shout than Jordan Love, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think 6 points per passing touchdown. Yeah, Jared Goff doesn't rush a lot, but I think with the fact that we already discussed, we're getting production out of the running back room. We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who does a lot on the receiving. And I think Laporta's going to have an uptick in his production as well. So it just bodes well for Jared Goff this year.
Right, so Roma Dunze after that, then Bo Nix, then Tyrone Tracy, Khalil Shakir, who would have been my pick if he'd have dropped. I like Shakir this year. I've got 4 running backs, so at this point I'm happy to just go in on wide receivers. I've only got 4 wide receivers through 10 rounds, which is not like me at all. But there's a reason I've kind of done it like that, because there's a few I like. I'm going to gamble that Reed will come back around. So at this point, no, I'm not. I'm going to take Jaden Reed because I'm really high on Jaden Reed, and somebody else I want a little bit lower. So I'll take Jaden Reed. Then it's Jerry Jeudy and Deebo Samuel. Then the start of the 12th round is Brian Robinson, Najee Harris. This is probably where I would start looking at kicker if Brandon Aubrey was still available. But as you've taken him off the board, I'm going to stick with wide receivers. And I'm going to go with. What am I going to go with? I'm going to go with. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm gonna take a gamble on someone I think could have a big year, or could at least finish the year strong, in Cam Scatterboo. So he was one of my guys going into the draft. Wasn't particularly pleased when he turned out to be a giant, but I think there's an opportunity there for him to take over that backfield eventually. So, or by sort of the back end of the year. So I quite like that. I quite like that pick. He's a bit of a gamble at running back. Then Cooper Kupp, Jalen Warren, Travis Etienne. It's just mad how much he's fallen in
plummeted. Yes, since that year that he absolutely screwed me over, he has been terrible.
And then Johnny Smith goes. We started this pod talking about Johnny Smith, and he's gone near the end of the 12th round in our 18 draft. Behind Andrews, Kelsey, still pretty high though. I don't think. He's a tough pick now.
Had Johnny Smith still been at the Dolphins, I can see why he's gone there. But now he's at Pittsburgh with, Freiermuth, probably going to run 12, 13 personnel. To take Johnny Smith above Evan Engram and David Njoku, to me, just seems mental.
Yeah. I was going to say exactly the same thing. I think there's them two. I also like Kincaid.
Yeah.
I mean, if his first tight end is one, but I think there's an argument that even Ferguson's a better pick than Johnny Smith now, but we'll see. He might be the focal. Aaron Rodgers might have said, "Go and get me Johnny Smith. That is who I want." He's going to be the focal. He's going to be the focal point of our offense moving forward.
Fantastic. So I'm now looking at. I'm sure on receivers. So I'm looking at receivers now. So I'm taking Stephon Diggs. No, I'm having Stephon Diggs. I think. Well, I hope he's still got another year left in him, if he can, keep his nose clean, for lack of a better phrase. So with 3 picks left, and I don't really like taking defenses in our 15-round 8-man leagues, because I'm more than happy to wait till the start of the season and just stream a defense. So I'm still on receivers, although Evan Engram still being there might be a good opportunity to reinforce my tight end, even though I said I'll look at that later on. I'm going to go with
wide receivers, the top 3 wide receivers in ADP that are left all play for the 49ers. It's Ayuk, Jennings, and Pearsall. It's like, take your pick. They're all dropping to the point where it's like, which one do you fancy? It's not too expensive, but at the same time, it's like, which one is it? They're all gonna go off, are they?
No, so I'm going to go with someone that's got a better chance of being wide receiver 1 in their relative team, and that's your lad Josh Downs.
Oh, okay.
So the upside with Josh Downs is a lot higher than all 3 of the ones at the Niners.
Yeah,
all 3 of them might have a role to play, but in terms of fantasy scoring, I think they'll all just be, 10 points a week.
Yeah, I think he. I like Josh Downs this year. If he can get a bit of something going with Daniel Jones, then you never know. Brandon Ayuk goes after him, then Tajay Spears, then Evan Ingram goes to team 4 as a second tight end, and Kyler Murray goes to team 6 as a second quarterback. Team 5, sorry, I'm team 6. Team 5, I've gone Kyler Murray as a second quarterback to back up Lamar Jackson. Incredible value on Kyler Murray in the middle of the 13th round. And I'm not going to go for a second quarterback. I think if I've got Hurts, I'm golden. You're going to play him every week, and you're just going to, if you have that 1 week where I need a cover, I'll find someone on the waiver wire. I think you can do that in 8-team leagues because most worst case scenario, you're going to be have 14, 15 quarterbacks taken, so there's still going to be plenty of choice. Got 5 running backs, so I do need to stack up at wide receiver, I think. So I'm going to go. The question here is whether I go solid with Darnell Mooney or I take a gamble on someone with having a bit of a breakout. And I'm going to go. Do you know what? I'll gamble on Pearsall having the breakout for the 49ers. And go with him as my 6th wide receiver, which means we are now firmly in the part of the draft where sleeper just takes kickers and defenses. So I will play that game, and I will take I'll take Harrison Butker, who used to be my favorite kicker until Brandon Aubrey took over my love in the kicker world. And then he's still going to be kickers until we get to you because you've already got your kicker.
That's exactly right. So I've got no interest because I had him sealed up ages ago. So well done me.
4 rounds too early. I am
going to, against my better judgment and everything I've said on this pod since we've ever started it and everything I've ever said about this guy, I am going to give Javonte Williams one last chance.
Oh, no.
I mean, in the 14th round, if it don't come off, it don't come off. I'm not really that bothered.
I think you'll know. I think you'll know pretty quickly as well. Give that a couple of weeks, and you'll be able to watch him and go, "Yeah, he's got nothing there." He's always. I mean, across the season, he's going to have like a 2-touchdown game where he just runs it in from a yard out. Because George Pickens caught a 50-yarder and went down at the 1-yard line. So he's going to have games where he scores a couple of touchdowns, but I think you'll know early on whether he's got any juice left.
Yeah, and he's one of those that, especially with who he is, like if he doesn't come off, I have no issue waiving him. That's fine. It's a 14th round pick. If he starts playing well, I will trade him immediately before he does what he always does and breaks down.
Yeah.
So I need him to have 2 good games early doors, and then I will package him in a trade and send him packing. So I've already established I'm not taking a D. I am more than happy streaming Ds as it gets closer to the season. It's likely someone will get hurt or injured as we go through preseason, as we go through training camps, as we go through the preseason games. So I'm happy to wait. And I'm actually going to take my second tight end and just box that off. And it's my second favourite tight end. It's Jake Ferguson. Got a lot of love for Jake Ferguson.
I like that. I was just thinking, and I'm just looking down the list at who I'm going to throw a dart at on the last round. Because again, if we're doing this draft now or at any point in July, I'm like, I don't need a defense until week 1. I'd rather take a gamble on another potentially good player now on the basis that one of them is going to get injured or something's going to happen before the start of the season anyway. So I probably won't take a defense. So there are a few tight ends that I still like. I think Loveland at this point is worth a gamble because you never know. He might be a really big part of that offense. They did take him really high. I mean, he was picked, 2 places after Ted McMillan? So he's got the same sort of draft capital. Kincaid, I think, is worth a gamble as a late tight end as well. And I think he's not going to go in 8-team leagues, but Hunter Henry is a massive value at whatever tight end he is down there, because I think everyone keeps talking about Drake May, and yeah, it could be Stephon Diggs, but he's already got a connection with Hunter Henry, and we saw it last year. So I quite like Hunter Henry. But the player I'm gambling on quite a lot, and there's a few players left, Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, they would both be worth a shout. But the one I'm gambling on is a second-year wide receiver, and it's Ted McMillan's on the other side from Ted McMillan. It's Xavier Legette. And that's the sort of gamble I like, because I think it's a bit like the Javonte Williams in that 2 weeks in, we'll know he'll either have 15, 16 targets and look like a really important player in that team, and I might be able to trade him, or I might be using him ahead of Pearsall, who's not doing it, or whatever. Or it'll be quite clear I can just cut him and move on and gamble on someone else. So
no, I like that. On that pick that you just made, if I was going to gamble on someone that wasn't Legette, I'd have gambled on Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, I think I really like Darnell Mooney. I just think he's a bit of a safe play. There's no like explosive element to him. He's not, but he's a safe play with upside. If Drake London gets injured, you could have. Darnell Mooney's the sort of player you can bring in and go, well, I know he's probably going to get me 10 points, so I'll just stick him in. Like when as you get in later in the season, he's the sort of player you really need, I suppose, but possibly not when you get to the playoffs. Looking back on your team as we've made the end of the draft, are you happy with how that worked out?
The team that I've drafted, or the team that you drafted in my spot?
No, the team that you drafted at 1.
Incredibly happy with that team.
Do you know what I like? What you've done, and this is what I feel. I feel like the target needs to be. When you play an 8-team, everyone ends up with a really good team if you're playing in 8-team leagues, or a lot better than you used to if you're playing in 10 and 12 teams. Obviously, less teams, better players to pick from. But what you really need to do is you need to aim for players who could potentially finish either number 1 at their position or in the top 2 or 3. And I think your first 4 picks could all finish at number 1 in their position. So Joe Burrow could be the QB1 if it all goes right. Christian McCaffrey could bounce back. He's done it before. Brock Bowers has proven he can do it, and so has Jamar Chase. And it's like they're probably not all going to finish at number 1 in their position, but they are all capable of it. And I think that's the sort of that's a basis to a really good team. So I like what you've done there.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed when I took Bowers and McCaffrey back to back. In a real draft, that's probably not going to happen, especially with the people that we draft with. It's never going to happen.
No, I don't think. I mean, Brock Bowers isn't making it past you in the second round, where you'll be further back anyway. And I don't think McCaffrey makes it to the end of the second round.
No, definitely not. No. How do you feel about your team?
Yeah, good. I mean, I like. It's not a bad position to be in that. I think if you can get someone like CeeDee Lamb and then back him up with a Nico Collins, I like the 2 wide receiver start. I always have. I mean, it's not. I think I would probably, and I would take it over. Team 4 started really well as well, but I would take that. The problem with taking a tight end early, as we've both done there, if you take Bowers or McBride, I feel like you are sacrificing either running back or wide receiver a little bit, and I feel like I've had to sacrifice running back a little bit there. Still got Kyron Williams in the fourth, but Joe Mixon makes me nervous as my sort of second choice running back, and then I'm down at Pacheco with my third choice running back. So, and my other wide receivers aren't as strong as I would like them to be for that running back room. But then that's the price you pay for going Trey McBride or a Brock Bowers early on, and backing that up with a Jalen Hurts. I think I'm sort of torn when it actually comes to it. It's easy in mocks to just kind of go, yeah, I like these top 5 quarterbacks. When it actually comes to it, I don't know whether I'll pull the trigger on one of those because there's such a gap between you have to take one of those 5 in the first 5 rounds. I'm not a fan of Mahomes or Baker really, or Bo Nix. So the quarterbacks I would then be looking at, I can take really late. So you kind of go in, it's the first 4 or 5 rounds, or it's really late. And I quite like some of the plays that you can get early on. So it'd be interesting to see when we're actually on the clock in a live draft, and you know you've got to live with it for the rest of the season. whether I would have gone Jalen Hurts there, or whether I would have taken a Rashee Rice or a Devontae Adams or someone like that, and just gone, actually, I'll sort this quarterback position out later. When you see how late, I'm not sure I want to get stuck on the Kyler Murray train again. But that's the one thing I didn't get with that draft. I do like a stack, and I think I would probably have preferred to take a Devontae Adams there and then get Kyler Murray to go with Trey McBride later on.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. What do you think about Team 3 there? That's a team that's taken a QB late, stacked up on wide receivers, which is very, very peaty. What do you think about that team?
I like it. Barkley makes me nervous.
For those that are watching on YouTube that are listening on the pod, it's Saquon, Achane, Drake London, James Cook, McLaurin, Metcalf, Flowers, Olave, Ridley, Mark Andrews, Bo Nix, ETN, Tajay Spears, and then Tyler Bass and Miami Dolphins D, which is irrelevant.
I don't mind the strategy. I would have preferred to do the Team 4. I would prefer. I think Team 4 is much better than Team 3. I'd rather load up on wide receivers early, and then add your running backs later on. So I think I would have. What Team 4 did wrong was they got a little bit carried away and just stayed on wide receiver. Once they had those first 4 in the bag, that's where I suppose what I'm saying is I like the running backs in the sort of 6th, 7th, 8th round more than I like the wide receivers there, and I think I like the wide receivers early on more than I like the running backs. So I'd rather have a Jefferson over a Barkley or a Puka over an Achane, and then swap that out for like a Hubbard or a Connor later on instead of sort of DJ Moore or Devonta Smith or Metcalf or Flowers. So
yeah,
that would be what I would. But then that's me, innit? Like, it's not a secret anymore. I like to take wide receivers early. So, I do think it's that the big question for this that's come out of it for me is, do you try and target a tight end early? I mean, obviously a lot of it depends where you are. I suppose a more obvious question is, because there's only really 2 or 3 tight ends you want, a more obvious question is, do you try and target a quarterback early and gamble on running backs and wide receivers later, or do you push that quarterback decision down the road and just keep taking running backs and wide receivers early and stack up a little bit? But I like both those teams. I think we've done a good job.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what everyone else thinks.
Just before we finish, which one of these teams do you think is the most H? If he was here.
Well,
or which one?
There should be a function to show you which has got the most rookies in, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, what's interesting is CJ Stroud hasn't gone.
Yeah, that's what I mean about quarterbacks. There's some good quarterbacks that could have big years, or you could like stream them between a couple of them that you can get later on. It's just sometimes it's just, especially when we're managing like multiple leagues, it's nice to just go, yeah, that's like that team you've got there. You know who your quarterback is, you know who your tight end is every single week. Like the only thing you do, the only management that team needs is there an injury to Kamara or Walker, and which wide receivers am I putting in there? Like that's literally all you have to do from week to week, and that takes a bit of, until you get to week 8 where you need a tight end. But the first 7 weeks, you can just go right.
I've got Jake Ferguson. I took our second tight end into Jake Ferguson.
But for those first 7, 8, 9 weeks, you can just plug and play the players you want to play, and then you maybe every week you've got to think about one wide receiver or another. But that's the only decision you've got to make, and then you plug that in, and then you move on to your next team that you're managing. Because we're greedy and we get carried away in the off season and then end up managing multiple teams.
But to answer your question, the team that is most H is, if you took CD Lamb out of your draft, your team is very H.
Why?
Nico Collins. Don't really need to say anything about that. Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
Travion Henderson.
I didn't realise I went.
Cam Scatterbo and Leggett.
I really don't like that Joe Mixon pick now.
No. Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Actually, yeah. Jaden Reed's in there, which we all know that H is massively against. But I think your team is very H. It's definitely not team 2 or 3, because H would never have a run of 5 running backs or 5 receivers in a row.
I was thinking team 8 because he's a big fan of Henry and Allen, and then I think he likes Devontae Adams, and then it gets a bit rookie heavy with like Caleb Johnson and a couple of others. So I was like, I think that's team 8.
Yeah, anyway. Actually, because he also really likes Cameron Dicker. Yeah.
Well, there you go. H is here in spirit. Just to be clear, he's just on holiday. Nothing's happened to him.
He's not dead.
Yeah, he will be back. He will be back in a couple of weeks' time. Right. Follow us on all of our socials as we get closer to the season. We'll be putting more and more stuff on there at JMD Pod, at JMD Podcast on TikTok. Like, subscribe, and share on YouTube. We will put this out, and then we will post the link to the draft board if anybody is that bothered they want to look at the draft board. We will post the link to that as well underneath, so you can see that and log in if you want. Anything to add?
No, all good. Maybe next week we will look at talking some Scott Fish before me and you go down to London.
Sounds good to me.